What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to be revealing the exact organic content strategy that we've used to be able to generate multiple six figures for our clients in the info product, coaching, consulting, and online done-for-you service provider space. And by the end of this video, you're going to have a clear game plan as to what kind of content to actually post, which platforms to actually post it on, and how to ultimately take all of that attention and views and convert it into high-paying clients. Because at the end of the day, if you're getting a bunch of views and a bunch of followers, but you're not actually converting them on your high-ticket offer, then it's pretty pointless. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So typically when it comes to content, there's only two real reasons as to why we're making it. And I like to break that down into two core mechanisms. So the first mechanism is going to be the actual traffic generation, right? So this is actually how we're gonna get people through the door. And then the other one's going to be the traffic conversion. So of that traffic that we end up inevitably getting through the door, how are we gonna convert them on the high ticket offer? And so a lot of people like to mix these up, or they don't understand the difference between both. But think about it, if we have one reel that pops off and gets hundreds of thousands of views, we can't actually expect to be converting all of those people. But at the same time, if we have a really good, high ticket offer, we can't expect to convert people if we're not actually generating any sort of traffic. So what you want to do is create an ecosystem where you're not only getting people through the door and actually generating that traffic, but you also want to inevitably convert that traffic on the offer. So how I like to think about this is typically with traffic generation, this can be Instagram because you can get a lot of views on one reel and really pop off and get a ton of leads. And then traffic conversion is actually YouTube. And we already know, without going too in depth on either YouTube or Instagram, that YouTube takes years of consistency to actually build a proper subscriber count. Whereas with Instagram, it only takes one piece of short form content to ultimately pop off that could provide you thousands, if not millions of views, which could then turn into dozens of leads that would actually convert on your high ticket offer. And so if Instagram is our main traffic generation source, we also have to keep in mind how we're actually gonna come across this prospect, especially when they're on a short form content platform like Instagram. And at the end of the day, the only way that you're actually gonna find new people, like new followers, is only going to be Reels. And at the time of this recording, the best way to actually reach new people, not just people that are currently following you, specifically with short form content, is going to be trial Reels. And the reason that these are so clutch is because trial reels only push your content to new followers. It's not going to push it to anyone that's currently following your page. So you could have followers that have been following you for years on end and they'll never see your trial reels. They'll only be optimized to push to new people. So that way you can actually acquire new leads, new customers, etc. So we know we actually need to create more reels because at the end of the day, that's the only way that we're actually going to reach new people and inevitably get new high ticket clients. But what kind of content should we specifically make to, one, actually attract the ICP that we're looking for, and then two, have enough of a top of funnel so that way if we have a video that gets a couple hundred, if not a million views, we can still have enough leads to be able to convert those people on our offer. And so it's also super important to note that lots of views doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to convert all of those people on your high ticket offer. So there's a big misconception that if you get hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views, that those are all, potential buyers for your high ticket offer, where sometimes, yes, that might be the case if you have a really, really dialed in ICP, but 9 times out of 10, if you have a video that goes extremely viral, it went viral because it's trending, not because you have that much value to actually provide, and not all of those people are qualified leads or prospects to be able to actually convert on your high ticket offer. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that getting a lot of views can't be good. There's a big misconception, especially in this high ticket info product coaching space, that a lot of views isn't good. I'm telling you right now, if you have one video that has a decent ICP and you get hundreds of thousands of views, there's going to be enough of a top of funnel. So there's going to be enough traffic up here that even if it's like at 1 million views, you're going to have so many people in through the door that by the time they come to your bottom of funnel, that there's going to be enough buyers that will actually purchase your high ticket product. And so with this funnel, how you can kind of think about it is that the top of funnel is going to be all of these reels that you have. So your reels are at your top of funnel. And then ultimately what you want to do is send all of that traffic to a conversion system where they'll actually be convinced on your high ticket offer. And that goes back to what I was saying here, which is your YouTube. Now I'll come back to the YouTube in a minute. I really want to focus on the actual Reels and Instagram side first though, because again, it's our traffic generator. We're not going to be generating a ton of traffic on YouTube. That's where we're going to be converting that traffic. So the next question that kind of comes into play is, if we want one video that gets, 1 million views, what kind of content do we need to make to be able to attract the ICP and then get enough views so that way, even on our top of funnel with all the reels that we're generating, we still have enough potential buyers on our bottom of funnel with the content that we make on Instagram. Now, again, I know that not a lot of views doesn't mean a lot of money, right? But at the end of the day, at a very, very high level, you need to get at least a little bit of views or a little bit of engagement to be able to actually have enough leads to then convert. So again, if the main actual job or the main goal for us is views, we need to think about it as an equation, because at the end of the day, Instagram has an equation that comes down to actually pushing your content to more people and ultimately getting more views. And so to get more views, it's usually a combination of a couple things. But just to simplify it, it's usually a combination of the actual retention of the video, comments, and then also shares. Now, there's definitely a number of other things that go into the actual views and how Instagram kind of pushes your content out to more people. But at a high level, the only things that really matter are retention, comments, and shares. Yes, you could take into consideration like watch time or if someone visits your profile after they watch the video. But again, at a high level, this is all you really need to focus on, because you have to think about it from Instagram's perspective, right? They're just trying to create a platform where people can share their interests, hobbies, passions, and actually connect with each other, because at the end of the day, it's just a social media platform. And so the way that you can think about retention is actually how long someone's staying on the video. Now, the reason that this is so important is because if we're utilizing Instagram's Reels or trial Reels, at the end of the day, the only way that Instagram's going to push this out to even more people is if people actually engage or watch your video for a long enough time and stay past the first 3, 5, 10 seconds. Because if Instagram sees that people aren't actually watching your video after the first few seconds, then what's the chance that they actually push it out to even more people? It's pretty low, right? So we want to make sure that, first of all, our hook rate is super high. So within the first 3 to 5 seconds, we have some sort of pattern interrupt. We're calling out our ICP, and we're making sure that we're grabbing the audience's attention. Now, alongside the hook, you also have the body of the video, and then also like the CTA or like the closing of the video, where you're just basically wrapping up the value that you provide. But the biggest misconception that a lot of people make in this short form content space is the actual, again, the retention of the video. And they're not keeping into consideration that people are going to drop off from hook to body and then body to CTA/closing. And now I'll go ahead and draw a quick graph over here showing the kind of retention model. Let's say, for example, on this y-axis is the actual retention of the video. And then on the x-axis is the watch time of the video. Let's say, for example, for like a 1-minute video. Now, what'll happen is, specifically if you're watching a video, you'll watch it starting with the hook, where a lot of people will obviously be watching it because it's the first 3 seconds. And then inevitably there's going to be drop off in the video where the retention ends up going down. So then they'll go to the body of the video, and then they'll go to like the CTA or the closing. And by the time that this watch time is around the 1 minute where you're closing out the video, the retention is super low, and a lot of people have already dropped off because they didn't find enough interest, or you just simply didn't retain enough people, as I mentioned in this equation. Now, an easy way to actually combat this is in between the hook, body, and CTA, you can actually add what I like to call a bridge. Now, the reason that this is so important is because this is going to allow you to basically keep that viewer engaged to then increase the retention time. So with this graph, for example, where the retention is super high because it's obviously like the first 3 seconds, it's the hook, and then there's that inevitable drop off where more than 50% of people are actually dropping off even before the body. What you can then do is add some sort of bridge right here and then right here, just to keep people engaged just a little bit longer and not make that transition so harsh, so that way people will get retained a little bit longer. So what a typical graph would look like in that case is they would watch the hook here, and then they would maybe watch this much before they drop off, and so that drop off isn't that harsh. And then they might drop off a little bit here at the body, but then they'll continue to watch the video all the way until the end, because there's, again, that bridge right here and then the bridge right here. So again, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but ultimately this is a very easy way for you to increase the retention of the video. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if that's part of this equation here, you're going to get more views because of it. And so this actually takes me back to the concept that I was explaining earlier with the hook, bridge, body, bridge, CTA, and specifically the CTA. And the reason that this is so important is if we look at the better version of our retention graph, we spent all this time and we've actually scripted out the content to be able to keep people a lot more retained and hopefully stay till the end of the video. And so if they stay till the end of the video, this is the absolute best time to actually have a CTA, a call to action, where you can have someone comment for a free resource, a lead magnet, or any other deliverable that you want to give them that has to do with the concept or topic in your video. And so for the CTA, what I like to tell a lot of the clients that I work with is to make sure that you tell them to comment a specific keyword. So like comment coach, comment resource, comment whatever you want to comment, so that way you're getting a lot of engagement, a lot of people are commenting, and then you can set up an automation inside of ManyChat to actually respond to all those comments and then deliver that free resource inside of the DMs. And another feature that ManyChat has that's extremely clutch is we can automatically reply to every single comment that comments for this keyword for the resource or whatever we're actually providing them. And the reason that this is so important is because if we go back to this actual equation that we have here, obviously getting more comments is a key component to actually getting more views and then ultimately attracting our ICP. And so with this method that we have here, we're not only having people comment more to get the free resource, but we're also commenting back and replying to them saying, hey, it's been delivered in your DMs, or check your DMs. So we are quite literally 2 to 3xing the amount of comments that we have on any given video. And finally, the last part of the equation is the shares. Now, the head of Instagram has said that shares are an important factor to actually getting more engagement and then ultimately getting more views. But at the end of the day, there's not really much that you can do other than telling people to share it in the caption or in the video. But naturally, if you have really good retention and you have a lot of comments, then that means your video is already on the right track. And naturally, people are just going to want to share that with their friends or partners or whatever it is. And at a high level, that's all you really need to know about making content, especially to get views to attract your ICP. Now, when it comes to the actual specific types of content, you just need to keep in mind that you need to make sure that it hits all of these points inside of this equation. So you need to make sure that your video is getting a lot of comments. You need to make sure that the retention rate is high, and you need to make sure that's value packed enough to actually have people share it with their friends or whoever they want to share it with. And so specific types of content that does extremely well, especially on Instagram, is interview style or podcast style content, talking head content, breakdown videos just like this one, but obviously in more of a short form format. And then the one I actually like the most, which I like to call the resource layup. And what I mean by resource layup is you're essentially giving yourself a layup to then send them that resource that you go over in the video. So you can spend the entire video going over that resource, that lead magnet, that tool, whatever it is. And then at the very end of the video, you can say, hey, if you want access to this exact same resource, comment the word XYZ and I'll send it over. And so that's an easy way to, again, obviously get the engagement up, but then also make more content just giving away free resources. And honestly, you can try formats other than the ones mentioned here, but ultimately you just want to test and see what kind of resonates with your audience and see which one actually brings the most qualified ICP. And you have to remember, we've only touched the Reels portion, right? So again, if I draw out this funnel and our top of funnel is Reels and our bottom of funnel is the actual YouTube where we're going to convert that lead into a high ticket client, there is so much space in between in our middle of funnel where we need to educate that lead and prospect to make them understand who we are, what we offer, why we're better than competitors, and ultimately get them to convert down here after they watch this YouTube video. And specifically to get new followers and ICP leads into your ecosystem, the only real way that they're actually going to discover you is Reels. Yes, they might be able to discover you via YouTube at the top of funnel, especially if you go really hard on your organic following. But if we're talking speed and trying to be as efficient as possible, the best way to actually go about it is Reels at the top of funnel. But there are other things that we need to do in our middle of funnel to make sure that they actually end up going down to our bottom of funnel and actually converting. And so there's two things that I like to think about when it comes to Instagram in particular, when it comes to the middle of funnel, and those are the actual stories that people watch and then the DMs itself. And so like I mentioned before, they're not going to watch your story right off the get-go, right? There's no way that they're going to come across your page and then view your story unless they come across a reel first. This is always the number one source. But then right after that, the first thing that they're going to do is go watch your story, especially if you have one live, or they're going to go straight to your highlights where they're going to see, your past stories where you can actually explain a little bit more about who you are, what you offer, and your entire story. And so the stories and highlights are actually a great way for that lead to actually get to know who you are and somewhat of your personality before they end up going to your bottom of funnel. Because again, even if they watch just one 30-second reel, it's a very low chance that they go straight to your YouTube unless you have so much immense value in your reels. They need to really get to know who you are before they make that big of a commitment and jump all the way to watching a 20, 30, 40-minute YouTube video. And so with the highlights, what we want to do is optimize around having them understand as much as possible about you, especially if they come off just a quick 30-second clip. So what we'll do is we'll have our clients actually make a My Story or About Me highlight that just explains who they are, where they started from, and how they got to the current stage that they're at right now. And then the other highlights are typically around client and student results or some sort of social proof. So if someone were to click on that client result highlight, they can see all of those case studies, testimonials, and the results that you've been able to achieve. And especially if they're in their ICP, they're immediately going to relate to all of those results because they might be dealing with the exact same problem that you've mentioned in that highlight. And yes, stories and highlights are extremely important, but in my opinion, the absolute most important process of your middle of funnel is definitely the DMs. And the reason I say that is because if you remember from our diagram that we had a little bit earlier, where we were trying to get as many comments as possible, now what we've done is we've actually opened up the conversation in the DMs, especially if we give that lead magnet or free resource in the DMs after they commented on one of our reels. So as soon as they actually comment on the reel here, what we want to do is actually, inevitably, we're going to DM them, obviously. And then what we can do is say, hey, what'd you end up thinking of that resource in particular? And so this is absolutely one of the best opportunities to actually upsell someone that opts in for that free resource. Because think about it, they already commented a specific keyword on one of your reels to receive that free resource. And now that it's actually been delivered in the DMs, it's just you and them, and you can have an intimate conversation and see where they're currently at, what's their pain points, and see if your high ticket offer can actually bridge the gap between where they are and where they're trying to get to. And this can honestly be done automatically. So we actually upsell people with a software called DMset.ai, which will basically allow you to, whenever someone opts in for a lead magnet, message them and say, hey, what'd you end up thinking of the resource? And then have that sales conversation all the way until a call booking. And if for whatever reason they're unqualified, you can still send them another resource, or you can even send them again to what would be even better, the bottom of funnel. You can send them to a YouTube video where they can then again consume more content and then get more warm or closer to making that buying decision and actually work with you one-on-one. And so again, AI will actually come into the conversation as soon as that resource has been delivered and say, hey, what do you think of the resource? And then begin that sales conversation until one, they actually want to book in a call. And so they're already convinced that, your high ticket offer is a good fit for them. Or two, we actually just want to get them a little bit more warm and push them more bottom of funnel. And then again, we can just push them right back into the YouTube. And by the way, if you want some help actually implementing some of these systems so that we can close more high ticket clients from Instagram and YouTube, feel free to click the first link in the description. But honestly, at a high level, that kind of covers everything as far as like the actual Instagram traffic generation side goes. Obviously, you just want to keep in mind that Reels is going to be the only way that you're actually going to generate traffic, especially to new followers and potential new ICP leads. You can actually take people to middle funnel through Instagram stories, highlights, and DMs. And then ultimately, which I'm going to move into next, you're going to want to convert people bottom of funnel through YouTube. And the best thing about YouTube is it's all long form content. And the reason I say that is because with Instagram, it's all short form, right? So those reels might be 30 seconds, a minute, maybe 90 seconds long. And even if I'm not interested in that video, I might watch it all the way through because it's extremely short. But with YouTube videos, sometimes it's 10 minutes long. It might be 20, 30 minutes long, maybe even an hour long. And there's no way that I'm watching an entire hour-long video unless I have a lot of intent behind it and I actually want to know about who that person is, what they offer, and more about their service. And so if you're trying to convert someone, especially high ticket where you're charging $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 plus, you want to make sure that your watch time is extremely high or as high as possible. Because think about it, no one's going to just watch one reel and one story and then pay you $10,000. It's pretty rare. You have to have a very, very strong brand to be able to do so. But with YouTube, you can basically get that watch time up as high as possible. And at the same time, you're spending that entire hour or however long actually educating them and informing them on your high ticket offer. And so for specific types of YouTube videos, it's pretty similar to the actual organic side. You can do the exact same interview or podcast style where you interview clients or you interview people that have actually worked with you. You could also do, for example, breakdown videos similar to this one right now. This is a perfect example of a video that could eventually convert you if you're watching it. A lot of how-to videos are good because you can, again, educate the prospect on a specific pain that they're trying to solve. And then free courses are absolutely crushing it right now because you can basically provide an immense amount of value in about an hour or 2 hours long, and then they'll start to imagine what it's actually like to be part of your paid program. And again, these are just a couple examples of formats that do extremely well on YouTube. You can definitely try outside of these formats the exact same way that you would test on Instagram, but you just want to see what kind of resonates with your ICP and which types of videos bring in the best high ticket clients. And no matter which format you end up choosing, you just want to make sure that you keep in mind it's always long form content, right? So you just want to make sure that the video is longer than 10 minutes because ultimately the only reason that they're actually watching it is to get educated and informed on your high ticket offer. And guys, that basically wraps up the entire organic content strategy that we integrate inside high ticket offers to generate multiple six figures for our clients in the info product, coaching, consulting, and online education space. And if you want help actually implementing some of these systems for your high ticket offer, feel free to click the first link in the description. And other than that, I'm going to be posting videos just like this one, going over different systems to actually scale high ticket offers. So be sure to subscribe and I'll catch you on the next one.